I thought this was going to be like one of those award shows where Mark would be talking and the music would start playing and get louder and louder, but he cut off the thank you, so that was good. Now, as Mark said, we've been doing the vision for many years, and every year we like to think the vision has a big message and is really hitting really important trends that are important for all of us as leaders to think about. But every once in a while, we hit a year where I think the vision is even more important and really, demarcates a really important shift that's happening in technology and business and society. And I think this is one of those years. The last time I felt that way was 4 years ago when we launched a vision that we called, the title of it was Every Business is a Digital Business. And it talked about the trend that was happening at the time where digital was happening in some industries, and we said this is going to hit every industry. It's everybody's job to think about digital and how it transforms their industry. And that really set in motion, what's happened since then, and we've seen happen as really every industry has gone digital. And I think the reason this year's vision is really important to me is I think it really is we're at an important time with an important shift that we can see coming. So I'll tell you what that is and why we feel so strongly about that. But to tee that up, one of the reasons the vision is important this year is because of what's happening in the world right now. If you think about what's happening in the world, what do we hear about in the headlines? Jobs, automation, borders, inequality of wealth distribution. And a lot of those things are rightfully or wrongfully are being associated with many of the changes that are happening in technology. And as we look at the future of what's happening in technology, we believe that this is an important time to take a different view of technology to make sure that the course we go down is the right course for us to get the vast and massive benefits that we believe will come from technology and help us address some of those issues that we're talking about. So that's why this vision, I think, is particularly important. And it's against the backdrop, the vision takes place against the backdrop of this amazing time in technology. With what's happening right now. I mean, you see some of these things on the screen with the videos of drones and Internet of Things, manufacturing, robots, all sorts of cool technology, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence. And what's happening is that we are in an amazing period of technology innovation, but it's fundamentally driven by economics. And year in, year out, regardless of the vision that we talk to you about, the one trend that never changes is the economics of technology. Every year, what I think about year in, year out is that the economics are driving all these changes. The core economics are that storage, network, and compute costs, the core elements of computing, are asymptotically approaching zero. So we're approaching zero cost and a drive toward lower cost with compute, network, and storage. And that fundamentally changes what we can do with technology and is resulting in all these amazing inventions that we have here. And that's something important to keep in mind, because regardless of the trends that we talk to you about any year, that trend with the economics of technology and the innovation around it is what's going to drive all of these advances. And so if I tie this together to the theme of the vision, then we're going to talk today a lot about people, and you'll hear us talk about amplify you, and you'll see that in our vision. And that's the shift that we see happening. And you all came to hear Accenture's technology vision, and when you come to events like this, you want to see a series of trends and have us describe what's happening. And the big change, that I'd ask you to think about and take away from the evening tonight is this theme of amplify you, and more fundamentally, if I go to the next slide, a very simple tagline of technology for people. And that's the core theme. If you take one thing away from from this vision and from why we think this is a unique and important time in technology, it's this idea of technology for people. And I'll explain a little bit more about what this means through the trends that we have here. But fundamentally, we believe that the technology landscape has shifted, and we're at a tipping point with a number of technologies where rather than humans needing to adapt to technology and do crazy little things like use our thumbs on crazy keyboards to get our phones to do things for us, which is kind of crazy, in being slaves to that kind of technology, to using technology in a very different way that amplifies the power of humans and where we have smarter machines that allow humans to do more. And that's the fundamental shift in technology that we see coming. That's part of technology for people. So there's 5 trends. I'll walk through each of these very quickly just to give you a sense of the 5 trends, and then we've got a great panel that's going to come up here and help us understand and explain the trends a little bit more. But let me talk a little bit about each of these just to give you an idea of what's in the vision. So think technology for people, and the first trend here is titled AI is the new UI. Artificial intelligence is the new user interface. What we're talking about here is what I was just hinting at a minute ago, where rather than being slaves and being bound by the limitations of technology, the advancing technology is allowing us to interoperate much more easily and for us to cognitively communicate naturally with machines, which we believe will produce amazing breakthroughs in creativity and productivity and the way we work and live. So AI is the new UI is a key part of the vision, and it's about artificial intelligence, it's about virtual reality, and about other technologies that enable this to happen. How many of you have an Alexa or a Google Home or Echo or Google Home or one of the equivalents? A lot of you do. So you've experienced a very basic form of this in terms of how you interact with the technology. When I come down in the morning, one of the first things I do is talk to Alexa, turn on the TV, and other things you can get Alexa to do. But that's a very basic form of this. I think when you think of AI as the new UI, another example to show you the power that this can have is a small company called Stitch Fix. Anybody know Stitch Fix and what they do? A few of you do. Stitch Fix is a very interesting company, so it's in the fashion business. If I'm interested in a new wardrobe, and you can argue I might need a new wardrobe, you can go, instead of searching through all sorts of sites and try to buy things, I can just tag things that I like, post things I like, accessories, clothes, etc. Stitch Fix has a platform with machine learning and artificial intelligence that kind of infers what I really want. It exposes that information to a crowdsourced network of designers who can then give me very personalized fashion recommendations. So there's humans in the loop, the designers in the loop, helping designers create their business, creating very personalized fashion advice and tailored to my individual needs. And that's a good example of a very different user interface and getting very personalized, very meaningful services to consumers in a different way. So that's AI as the new UI. Then if you think about how you deliver these services, increasingly platforms are important. I mentioned a platform behind Stitch Fix, and platforms are a key part of how this is all going to change. 15% of the global 2,000 companies in the world right now have business models based on platforms, 15%. We believe that'll be 80% within about 5 years, or roughly that time frame. So the idea of platforms becomes more important, and if your business is based on a platform, ecosystems become more important, the ecosystem of customers and the ecosystem of partners that you work with. So think Airbnb as a platform company. Airbnb now routinely does 1 million rooms a night. 1 million people stay in Airbnb rooms a night. They did 2 million on New Year's Eve, which was their highest peak ever. So that's a platform. Think about it in a more of a B2B context. Think about an ecosystem, what GM is doing with Lyft. To more quickly enable new drivers to get going on Lyft, GM has partnered with Lyft to make rental cars, GM rental cars, available to Lyft drivers, so Lyft drivers can get up and running, without even their own car, and start getting into their own business and operating as Lyft drivers. So think about the benefits of that to people looking to, get into the new profession and the ecosystem, and how General Motors in that case is leveraging that. Many more examples of that. We think that ecosystem idea and platform idea is going to be really central to many companies going forward. And then, another kind of platform that's important is your talent platform. And one of the things that requires a lot more focus as we move into this digital age and this intelligence age is thinking about your workforce in a different way. And that's where this trend comes in, talking about the workforce as a marketplace and thinking about your workforce differently. And we think this is, again, a very important concept because we need to reshape the industrial era models that many of us are still operating in companies and change that to a real digital age model with a more liquid workforce, recognizing the contingent and contractor labor forces that are more a part of our organizations, and also recognizing other ways, other talent platforms and such that we need to consider to really build the skills and talent for our organization. So I think we have Upwork in the audience today as an example, which is a great platform, Upwork with their Upwork Enterprise platform, working with companies like Procter & Gamble to provide new talent, new capabilities in a very flexible way to help large companies like Procter & Gamble source their talent in very different ways. And this idea of the workforce marketplace is something that's really a key part of changing the approach to talent going forward. Then you move beyond that and think about, okay, so we have all this new technology. How do we think about the experience that the individual has? And that's where design for humans comes in and becomes very important. And the idea with design for humans is that we have the ability with technology to really put the people first, back to the technology for people idea. So a good example here is thinking about a company like Betterment. How many of you are familiar with Betterment? Anybody use Betterment for your financial planning? So Betterment's, I don't think anybody raised their hand for using it. Betterment's an interesting financial management platform which is trying to change investors' behavior to more long-term investing. Betterment's belief is that many people make, or most people make mistakes. The research would show most people make mistakes by being too short-term oriented in their investing strategy. Betterment's using an AI-based, very digital platform to educate consumers and change the dashboards, change the way people think about investing, to encourage them to adapt a more long-term mindset, which results in better performance for them. So it's designing for humans, in this case, designing a platform that helps compensate for some of the human errors that people sometimes make and take a view that, that enhances, in this case, their wealth, investment, and savings. And that's a good example of this design for humans idea, and many more, or much more potential to exploit that. And finally, the Uncharted talks about the fact that in this new era, there's a vast array of new opportunities and new issues. So new opportunities to think about in terms of new industries created, new issues to think about in terms of ethics, and many other challenges that arise when we think about how to apply the technology. On the opportunity side, a good example in the Uncharted of how this all comes together is a company called Zymergen in the industrial microbiotics field. They produce microbes. And what they do is they identify microbes that can do very specific purposes, microbes that can eat waste, or microbes that can produce plastic. The way that they do this is that they generate a wide array of microbes. They use machine learning to understand which microbes are fit for different purposes, and then they can generate those microbes and use them for these industrial use cases. With the machine learning, the artificial intelligence approach, they're able to cut the product development time by 50%, and they do this on an outcome basis for customers where they commit to just producing the kind of microbe the client needs for their particular application, and vastly improve both the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the cost of developing these types of solutions. In other words, a whole new industry being created by combining the basic science, machine learning, and a new business model to deliver this new type of service. So if you put those all together, that gets you to technology for people. We do believe that this is a new era we're moving into, which is the digital business world that we're still in, but moving a little bit beyond that to this era of more human-centric, intelligent enterprise. And that's what's at the core of our vision this year. And if I kind of finish on 3 points before we bring up the panel, the first would be that the first takeaway from this is that we're really just at the start of this, and there's tremendous opportunity to tap the benefits of this potential for business and society. We did some work for the World Economic Forum that we talked about in Davos last week that estimated $100 trillion, so $100 trillion of benefits that are available by exploiting technologies like these to create not just business benefit, but societal benefit in terms of increased health benefits and reduced deaths through emissions and things like that. So tremendous benefits by applying the technology in a new way. And we believe this is a catalyst for growth. And there's very interesting ways to create growth opportunities in companies by applying the technology. So it's about this big macroeconomic opportunity as well as growth. A second point is that we believe this is about leaders behaving differently going forward. And I'd say it's a call to action to leaders in 2 ways. One is that there's a lot of debate about whether the technology is good or bad. Are we going to employ people, or are we going to put people out of work? How is it going to impact the way that jobs are distributed within countries, across borders, et cetera? We believe that the technology really has tremendous potential to do good, but provided that leaders take the right decisions within our companies in terms of how to deal with our workforce, thinking very carefully about how we automate things, taking humans into consideration, thinking about how we prepare our workforce so that people are agile and can be ready for future opportunities, and taking that all into account in how we run our business. And also leaders being more responsible in terms of working across organizations to do things like fixing our educational system, creating a better societal mechanism for lifelong learning, looking at the policy decisions that we have to deal with as we move into this world, and dealing with all that in a collective manner better than we have before. And we think that's essential to getting the benefits of this. And then the third takeaway from all this is this focus on investment in people is a key message, I think, to take away from the vision. Yes, we need to invest in technology. The technology is exciting, but the real opportunity here is to invest in people so that people can get more out of the technology. Consumers, can use these services more effectively. Employees are ready for these changes and are able to adapt and deal with the changes. And that, from a societal perspective, the right people are available and ready to do the right work going forward. So investing in people as leaders in our organizations and again across organizations is essential to the mission that we have. So technology for people. If you forget everything else I said, remember that phrase, and I'd encourage you to change the lens in which you're looking at things, to think from this people-first approach and investing in people as you think about how to apply technology in whatever domain that you're working in. Okay, so that's the vision. Got that part so far? Okay, good. It's always a risk serving the beer and wine before we do the vision talk, but I can tell it warmed up the audience well for this.